Gorsch the Cellist. Kenji Miyazawa. Gorsch was a cellist in a small orchestra at a cinema in town. But people thought he was not good. In fact, he was the worst of all the musicians. And because of that, the conductor was often angry with him. Just after lunch one day, the musicians were practicing the Sixth Symphony. They were going to play it soon at a concert. The trumpets were singing very hard. The violins were ringing like beautiful fabric. The clarinets were helping their sound. Gorsch was playing the cello with all his heart. His mouth was closed tight as he stared at the score. Suddenly, the conductor clapped his hands. Everyone stopped playing and sat quietly. "Gorsch, you came in late," the conductor shouted. He was angry. T-T-T-T-T-T. Let's start from there again. Right. The musicians started playing from just before the place they had stopped. Gorsch's face was red and he was sweating. He passed the part the conductor had pointed out and continued playing. But then the conductor clapped his hands again. "Gorsch, you're out of tune. Give me a break. I don't have time to teach you the scale." The other musicians felt sorry for Gorsch. Nobody looked at him. They all stared at their scores or tuned their instruments. Gorsch quickly tuned his strings. Of course, it was his fault, but it was the cello's fault as well. "Let's go from the bar before that," said the conductor. Right. They started playing again. Gorsch's mouth was closed tight. He was trying very hard. This time they kept playing for a while. Gorsch was beginning to think he was doing well. But then the conductor clapped his hands again. He didn't look very happy. Gorsch was afraid he had made another mistake. However, it was somebody else this time. Gorsch stared at his score, just like the others did before. "Now let's try the next section." Right. The orchestra started playing, but the conductor suddenly stamped his foot and started shouting. "Stop. It's no good at all. This part is the heart of the symphony, but all you're doing is making noise. Now, listen. We have only 10 days left before the concert. We are professional musicians. What will the audience say if we play like some band of amateurs? Gorsch, you make my head hurt. Your expression is no good at all. When you play, you never sound angry and you never sound happy. And you don't stay in time with the others. You always sound as if you are running behind them. You're giving us a hard time. If you don't play better, we'll all be in trouble. This Venus Orchestra has a wonderful history. What if the audience says bad things about us just because of you? Feel sorry for the other musicians. Okay, let's stop now. Take a rest. Be back here ready to play by 6 o'clock. The musicians all bowed and went out. They put cigarettes in their mouths and lit them with matches. Gorsch turned to face the wall. He was still holding his cello. It was like a cheap box made of wood. His mouth was still closed tight. He started to cry. Then he pulled himself together. All alone, he quietly started playing again. It was the part they had practiced. He went from the beginning. Gorsch arrived home late that evening. He was carrying a large black bundle on his back. His home was an old watermill by the river near the town. He lived there alone. Gorsch spent every morning in his little field. He looked after his tomato plants and picked insects off his cabbages. He always went out just after noon to practice. Now, Gorsch went in his watermill. He switched on the light and opened the black bundle. It was the cheap cello he was playing that afternoon. He put it down on the floor. Then suddenly he took a glass from the shelf and drank some water. He sat down on a chair. Then he started playing his cello. It was the same piece of music they had practiced. He played strongly like a tiger. As he turned over the pages of the score, he played and he thought and he played. He reached the end and started again from the beginning. Again and again, he played the piece, go, 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 go. It was very loud. It was now the middle of the night. Gorsch couldn't tell if it was really him playing or someone else. There was a wild expression on his face and his eyes were red. He looked as if he might fall on the floor. Then he heard a knock on the door. "Is that you, Gorsch?" Gorsch called in a sleepy voice. The door was pushed open. A big tortoiseshell cat came in. Gorsch had seen the cat 5 or 6 times before. He was carrying a tomato as if it was very heavy. It was one from Gorsch's field. He put it down in front of Gorsch. "Oh, I'm tired," the cat said. "It's hard work to carry something like this, you know." "What?" Gorsch asked in surprise. "It's a souvenir for you. Please eat it." "Who asked you to bring a tomato here?" asked Gorsch at once. It had been a hard day and he was feeling angry. "Why would I want to eat anything brought by an animal like you? And that tomato is from my field. What are you doing, picking a tomato that isn't ripe?" "So, it was you who has been nibbling my tomato plants?" "Hey, cat, go away." The cat hunched his shoulders and half closed his eyes. But he seemed to be smiling as he spoke. "Professor, getting angry won't be good for your health. Why don't you play some music? How about Schumann's Traumerei?" "I'll listen." "Don't be so cheeky," said Gorsch. "You're just a cat." He didn't like the cat's words. He thought for some time. What could he do with this nasty animal? "Oh, please don't be shy," said the cat. "Go ahead. I can't go to sleep without listening to you play." "You're so cheeky, cheeky, cheeky." Gorsch's face was now very red. He stamped his foot and shouted, just like the conductor that afternoon. But suddenly he had an idea. "Okay, cat, I'll play for you," he said. For some reason, Gorsch locked the door. Then he closed all the windows. He picked up his cello and turned off the light. The moonlight came in through the window. It lit half of the room. "So, what do you want me to play?" "Traumerei, by Schumann," said the cat, wiping his mouth. "Traumerei? Right. Does it go like this?" For some reason, Gorsch tore up a handkerchief. He pushed the pieces in his ears. Then he started playing. The piece was called Hunting Tigers in India. Gorsch played with the power of a storm. The cat listened for a while with his neck to one side. Suddenly his eyes went blink, blink, blink very fast. Then he jumped towards the door. He threw himself against it hard, but it wouldn't open. It was as if he had made the biggest mistake of his life. A shower of sparks flew from his eyes, his whiskers, and his nose. He looked as if he was going to sneeze. Then he started walking around as if he couldn't stay quiet any longer. Gorsch thought this was very funny. He played his cello even harder. "Professor, that's enough," cried the cat. "I've had enough. Please stop. I promise I'll never try to be a conductor again. Be quiet. The part where the tiger is caught is just coming up." The cat jumped up and down as if he was in pain. Then he turned round and rubbed his body against the wall. His fur shone blue. Then he ran round and round Gorsch. Gorsch started feeling dizzy. He stopped playing and said, "Okay, cat, I'll forgive you." "Professor, your music tonight was strange," the cat said, as if nothing had happened. Gorsch started feeling angry again. But he took out a cigarette and put it in his mouth. He picked up a match. "Well, how are you feeling?" he asked to the cat. "Are you sure you're not sick? Show me your tongue." The cat stuck out his long tongue. It looked as if he was making fun of Gorsch. "Ah, yes, it's very rough," said Gorsch. He struck the match on the cat's tongue and lit his cigarette. You wouldn't believe how surprised the cat was. He ran over to the door, trying to find a way out. He banged his head against it, fell back. Banged his head again, fell back. Banged his head again, fell back. Gorsch watched the cat for a while. He thought it was very funny. Then he said, "Okay, cat, I'll let you out. But don't come back again, you fool." He opened the door, and the cat ran away into the grass. Gorsch smiled. Then he went to bed. He slept well, as if he was glad the cat had gone away. The next evening, Gorsch arrived home with his large black bundle. He quickly drank a glass of water. Then he started playing his cello, just as he had the night before. He played harder and harder. Midnight passed. 1 o'clock passed. 2 o'clock passed. But Gorsch continued playing. He had no idea of what time it was. He wasn't even sure if he was really playing or not. Suddenly he heard a knock above him. "Hey, cat!" Gorsch shouted. "Haven't you given up yet?" Some sounds came from a hole in the ceiling. A gray bird came through it and flew down to the floor. It was a cuckoo. "So even a bird comes to visit me," said Gorsch. "What do you want?" "I want to learn music," the cuckoo said. Gorsch laughed. "Music? But all you can sing is cuckoo, cuckoo, isn't it?" "Yes, that's true," the cuckoo said. "But that is very difficult, you know." "It can't be difficult. It may be hard work singing so much, but the way you sing is nothing." "In fact, it's very hard," said the cuckoo. "For example, if I cry like this, cuckoo, or like this, cuckoo. They sound very different, don't they?" "No, they don't." "So, you can't tell, then?" "But if 10,000 of us all cry cuckoo, we all sound different." "Well, if you know so much, why did you come here?" "I want to learn how to do the scale." "The scale? You must be joking." "No. I need to learn it before going abroad." "Going abroad? You must be joking." "Professor, please teach me the scale." "I'll sing after you." "Oh, okay. I'll play it 3 times. Then you'll go away, right?" Gorsch picked up his cello and tuned the strings. Then he played the scale C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The cuckoo flapped his wings. No, it's not like that. You're a hard one to please. Why don't you do it, then? It goes like this." The cuckoo prepared himself for a few seconds. He shivered once, then he cried, "Cuckoo." "What?" said Gorsch. "Is that the scale you meant? So, to you, there's no difference between C, D, E, and the Sixth Symphony?" "No, that isn't true." "What do you mean?" "We have a difficult piece. In the piece, we continue crying cuckoo over and over again." "Like this?" Gorsch picked up his cello and played. Cuckoo, 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 cuckoo. This pleased the cuckoo so much he whined in. He cried, "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo," very loudly. His body moved from side to side. He didn't stop. After a while, Gorsch's hand started to hurt. He stopped playing and said, "Hey, you've done enough." The cuckoo looked disappointed, but he continued to cry for a little longer. At last, he went, "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo," and then stopped. Gorsch was very angry. "Right, cuckoo," he said. "You've finished your business. Now go away." "Could you please play it once more?" said the bird. "You weren't bad, but it's not quite right yet." "What? I'm not the one you are teaching. Go home." "Oh, please play it just one more time. Please." The cuckoo bowed his head many times as he spoke. "Oh, okay," said Gorsch. "But only once." He picked up his bow. The cuckoo took a breath, and the sound "cuck" came out. Then he bowed again and said, "And please make it long." "Wow, you're hard to please," said Gorsch. Then he started playing. He was smiling, but he didn't look very happy. The cuckoo moved his body from side to side again. "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo," he cried. He was very loud. At first, Gorsch felt angry. But he began to feel that in fact it was the cuckoo who was getting the scale right. The more Gorsch played, the more he felt the bird was better than he was. "Oh no," thought Gorsch. "If I go on like this, I may become a bird myself." He suddenly stopped playing. The cuckoo jumped as if he had been hit on the head. He cried, "Cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo," and stopped, just like before. The bird stared at Gorsch. "Why did you stop?" he said. "Even the weakest cuckoo would keep singing until its throat gets hurt. You're so cheeky. How long do you think I can play like this? Now get out." "Look, it's dawn." Gorsch pointed out of the window. The sky in the east shone silver. Black clouds were racing towards the north. "Please go on until the sun comes out. Just once more. Only a little longer." The cuckoo bowed his head again. "Oh, be quiet, you silly cuckoo. You're asking for too much. If you don't leave right now, I'll tear you up and eat you for breakfast." Gorsch stamped his foot on the floor. The cuckoo was so surprised, he suddenly flew straight at the window. His head crashed against the glass and he fell to the floor. "You silly bird," said Gorsch. He tried to open the window. But it was a window that wouldn't always open at once. Gorsch shook the frame. The cuckoo crashed hard into the glass again. He fell back down to the floor. Some blood came from the end of his beak. "Just wait while I open the window," said Gorsch. He opened the window a few centimeters. The cuckoo got up from the floor. He stared at the sky outside as if this time he was sure he could do it. Suddenly he flew up, flapping his wings very fast. But this time, of course, he crashed into the glass much harder than before. He fell back to the floor and didn't move for a while. Gorsch decided he would catch the cuckoo and take it to the door. But as he reached down, the cuckoo suddenly opened his eyes and flew off. Again, he flew towards the glass. Without thinking, Gorsch kicked at the window with his foot. The glass was smashed into pieces with loud sound. Then the window frame fell outside. The cuckoo shot out through the hole. He flew away and was soon out of sight. Gorsch stared outside for a while. Then he lay down and went to sleep immediately. The next evening, too, Gorsch played his cello until after midnight. He was feeling tired and stopped to drink a glass of water. Again there was a knock on the door. "I don't care who it is this time," thought Gorsch. "I will tell him to go away at once." He stood waiting with the glass in his hand. The door opened and a little raccoon dog came in. Gorsch stamped on the floor. "Hey you, raccoon dog," he shouted. "Do you know what raccoon dog soup is?" The little raccoon dog gave him a puzzled look and sat down on the floor. He thought for a while with his head on one side. Then he said, "No, I don't know what raccoon dog soup is." Gorsch almost started laughing when he saw the raccoon dog's face. "I'll teach you, then," he said, trying hard to look angry. "Well, raccoon dog soup is a raccoon dog like you boiled with cabbage and salt for me to have for dinner." The little raccoon dog still looked puzzled. "But," he said, "my father told me that Mr. Gorsch was a very good person and I don't have to be afraid of him. He said I should visit Mr. Gorsch to learn something." When he heard this, Gorsch couldn't stop himself from laughing. "And what did your father tell you to learn from Mr. Gorsch?" "Mr. Gorsch is a very busy person, you know, and Mr. Gorsch is very tired." The raccoon dog took one step towards Gorsch as if he suddenly felt brave. "I play the small drum. Dad told me to play it in time with Mr. Gorsch's cello. But I can't see a small drum. Look, here." The raccoon dog showed him 2 sticks he was carrying on his back. "And what do you do with those?" "Ah, could you please play the Jolly Coachman?" "The Jolly Coachman? What's that? Jazz? Here's the music." The little raccoon dog pulled sheet of music from his back. Gorsch took it and started laughing. This is very strange music. Well, I'll give it a go." "And you're playing the small drum, right?" Gorsch started playing. He looked down at the little raccoon dog. What was he going to do? The raccoon dog started beating in time with his sticks on Gorsch's cello, just below the bridge. He was quite good. As he played, Gorsch decided this was very interesting. When they reached the end, the little raccoon dog thought for a while with his head to one side. Then he said, "Mr. Gorsch, you get a little behind when you play the second string. That makes it difficult for me to play." Gorsch was surprised to hear this. Since last night he had felt that something was wrong with the second string. It was slow to make a sound, even when he played hard. "Well, yes, you may be right. You see, this cello isn't so good," he said sadly. The little raccoon dog thought again for a while. Then he said, "What's wrong with it? Could you please play some more?" "Right," said Gorsch, and began playing again. The raccoon dog beat the cello with his sticks just like before. Now and then he put his ears close to the cello. When they came to the end of the piece, the sky to the east was again growing lighter. "Oh, it's dawn," said the raccoon dog. "Thank you very much." He quickly returned the sheet of music and the sticks to his back, and tied them with a rubber band. Then he bowed to Gorsch 2 or 3 times and ran out. Gorsch's mind was empty. For a while, he breathed in the air coming in through the window that he had smashed the night before. Then he went to bed. He needed some energy to go into town later in the day. The following evening, too, Gorsch played his cello all night. Just before dawn, he felt very tired. His eyes started closing as he held the score. But then he heard a knock on the door. It was not very loud, but Gorsch heard it at once. He was getting used to visitors coming every night. "Come in," he said. The door opened. A field mouse came in, followed by her little baby. She moved towards Gorsch, running from side to side. Gorsch smiled when he saw the baby. It was no bigger than an eraser. The mouse went up to Gorsch. She put a green chestnut down on the floor in front of him. She bowed and said, "Dr. Gorsch, my child is very sick and may be dying. Please be kind to us and do something to make him better." but I'm not a doctor," Gorsch replied. The mother field mouse said nothing for a while. She looked down at the floor. But then she spoke. "Doctor, I don't think what you say is true. I hear that you make people feel better every day. You must be a very good doctor." "I don't know what you're talking about," said Gorsch. "But, doctor, thanks to you, Granny Rabbit and Daddy Raccoon Dog both got better, even the short-eared owl. But you say you won't help this poor little child. I feel so unhappy about that." "Hey, wait a minute. There's some mistake. I've never done anything for a short-eared owl. But it is true that a young raccoon dog came here last night. He played his drum with me." Gorsch couldn't believe what was happening. He looked down at the baby mouse and laughed. Then the mother field mouse started crying. "Oh dear," she said, "my child should have got sick much earlier. You were playing so hard just now. Then you stopped when he became ill. And now you won't play again even when I ask you. Oh, my poor little child." Gorsch was very surprised to hear this. "What?" he shouted. "Are you saying that owls and rabbits get better when I play my cello? But why is that?" "Why?" The mouse rubbed her eyes. "Yes. When your neighbors get sick, they come here and sit under the floor. They listen to you play, and they get better, you say?" "Oh, yes," replied the mouse. "Your music makes us all feel better. Some get better at once, and some get better after they go home." "Oh, I see. You're saying that when I play loud, it's like medicine? Okay. I understand. Let me try, then." Gorsch tuned his strings. Then suddenly he picked up the baby mouse and dropped him through the hole in his cello. "I'll go in with him," cried the mother. Mothers can do that at all the hospitals. She jumped onto the cello. "Ah, you want to go in, too," said Gorsch. He tried to push the mouse in through the hole, but she could only get half of her face in. "Are you all right down there?" she shouted to her child inside the cello. "Did you land well like I always tell you, with your feet together?" "I'm fine," came a voice from the bottom of the cello. It was no louder than the cry of a mosquito. "I landed well." "I'm sure he's all right," said Gorsch. "So you can stop crying now." He put the mother field mouse back down on the floor. Then he picked up his bow. He started playing a rhapsody very loudly. Go, go, go. The mouse looked worried as she listened. Then, as if she couldn't take any more, she said, "That's enough, thank you. Please pull my child out." "Oh, have you had enough?" asked Gorsch. He put his cello down on its side and put his hand by the hole. Then he waited. The baby mouse soon came out. Gorsch put him down on the floor. Shake, shake, shake. The baby mouse was shaking all over and his eyes were closed tight. "Well, how did you like it?" asked his mother. "Was it good? How are you feeling now?" The baby mouse didn't answer. Shake, shake, shake. He sat shaking for a while with his eyes still closed tight. Then suddenly he got up and started running around. "Oh, he's better," cried his mother. "Thank you, doctor, thank you so much." She went over and ran around with her baby. But she soon came back to stand in front of Gorsch. Thank you," she said about 10 more times and bowed again and again. Gorsch felt sorry for them. "Hey, do you eat bread?" he asked. The field mouse looked very surprised. "Oh no," she said, looking around. "I know bread is made from flour, and it gets bigger, and it looks good to eat. But we've never been inside your cupboard, and even if that wasn't the case, now we've been looked after by you so well, How could we ever come here again to do that? No, I didn't mean that. I just wanted to know if you eat bread or not. I think you do. Wait a minute. I'll give some to your little kid. Gorsch put his cello down on the floor and went over to the cupboard. He came back with a piece of bread and put it in front of the mouse. She cried and smiled and bowed as if she was very happy. Then she picked up the bread in her mouth and left, pushing her baby in front of her. Oh, dear. Talking to a mouse really makes me feel tired, said Gorsch. He went to his bed and fell into a deep sleep right away. It was the 6th evening after that. The Venus Orchestra had just finished playing the 6th Symphony at the concert. One by one, the musicians left the stage holding their instruments. All their faces were red. They had played very well. The audience were clapping loudly. The conductor walked slowly around with his hands in his pockets. He was not smiling. But in fact, he felt very happy. Some musicians were getting out cigarettes and striking matches. Some were putting their instruments back in their cases. The clapping went on. It was getting louder and louder. The master of ceremonies came in. He was wearing a big white rosette. They want an encore, he said. Could you play something short? No, we couldn't, replied the conductor. After that great piece of music, we couldn't play anything the way we wanted. Well, then, could you just go on stage and say something? No, replied the conductor. Hey, Gorsch, why don't you go out and play something? Me? Said Gorsch. He was very surprised. Yes, you, said the first violinist suddenly looking up. Right. Go on stage, said the conductor. The other musicians gave Gorsch his cello. Then they opened the door and pushed him out onto the stage. Gorsch didn't know what to think as he stood there holding the cello with a hole. But the audience clapped even more when they saw him. It was as if they were saying, "See? I told you so." Some were shouting, "Wow! Just how much do you want to make fun of me?" thought Gorsch. Right, just you wait. You're about to hear hunting tigers in India. Gorsch now felt better as he walked to the center of the stage. He played hunting tigers in India with the power of an angry elephant. It was just like that day the tortoiseshell cat had visited him. The audience went very quiet and listened to every note. Gorsch went on and on. Past the part where sparks had come from the cat. Past the part where the cat had banged his head against the door. When he finished, Gorsch didn't look at the audience. He quickly ran from the stage with his cello, just like the cat had done. All the musicians and the conductor were sitting backstage. Their eyes were open as if they had been caught in a fire. Gorsch no longer cared what people thought. He walked past them and sat down with his legs crossed. Then everyone turned their faces towards Gorsch at the same time. Nobody was laughing. This is a very strange evening, thought Gorsch. The conductor stood up and said, "Gorsch, that was wonderful. I don't think much of the piece of music you played, but we all listened hard. You've really worked hard during the past week or 10 days, haven't you? 10 days ago, you were like a little baby. Tonight, you were like a soldier. So, you can do it if you really want to." The musicians stood up and came over to Gorsch. "Well done," they all said. "Well," said the conductor, "he could do that because he's healthy and strong. It would have killed any of us." Gorsch got home late that evening. He drank some water and then opened the window. He looked at the sky. That was the way the cuckoo had flown. "Ah, cuckoo," he said. "I'm sorry for what I did. I didn't mean to be angry with you.